Hi everybody, my name's Mark. Welcome to Friendship Shaving. I'm shaving with a vintage razor today. It is systematic, hydromatic. It is in fact the gem Micromatic from the very early part of the 1930s. It is an open comb, single-edged, gold-plated razor that I've just cleaned up today actually. Let me show you. I'm going to be using some original Old Spice from India today, and I'm going to be using that with my Frank Shaving G4 synthetic brush. I'll just pop that in a drop of water. It smells very pleasant when you open the tube. I've not used this before, so we'll put a little drop or a little squeeze right into the brush there. Add a drop of water to my face and we will face lather with this. Ooh, it's quite a hard cream actually. I'm just going to get that going on my hand. There we are, that's better. Too much water in the brush. There we are, we're getting there. And you might remember that I have the vintage Old Spice in a mug, and I'll be comparing that to this soap today. You might remember that with the vintage Old Spice, when I first got it, it had something about the top notes of the scent that was just a touch unpleasant, to be honest. Well, I took it out of the box and I've taken the lid off the mug, and that is entirely gone now, that unpleasant smell. So I think it was due to the fact that it had just been in a box for about 50 years. Getting a nice lather here. It is going to take a little bit of water. Now the Old Spice, the vintage Old Spice soap, is a very manly scent in my opinion. There's no sweetness to it initially. And after about half an hour, a real warm and spicy scent starts to come out in the soap. And then after about 3/4 of an hour, you get a real sweetness to the scent. And maybe after an hour, there's a little bit of soapiness there as well. So the vintage is a really lovely soap. Now, when I first smelled this in the tube there, you get a little hint of something that is slightly reminiscent of Old Spice, but actually, once it's on the brush, I don't think it smells alike at all. I'll talk more about that as we go along. Now I've got my blade here. I've got a Treet blade made by the American Safety Razor Company. I'm just going to pop that in. Tighten that down and we are ready to go for a shave. Now, single edged. Very nice, as always. These single edged razors really are wonderful. There are later versions of this razor, the clog proof, I believe had a solid guard bar rather than the open comb that is on this version. And there is a bullet tip version of the gem Micromatic, and that is a really nice razor as well. I used to have one of those, but it was in really not very nice condition. And I sent it off to try and have it replated. It needed taking apart, it was in such poor condition, and unfortunately it didn't come apart or go together very well, so it was ruined really. But this certainly is a very nice razor. Now the Indian Old Spice original is burning my face. So even before I've got to talk about it, I'm going to tell you that after this pass, I'll be picking out another brush and I will be changing to the vintage Old Spice. It's really starting to kick in now and I'm getting a little bit of a burn. Which is a shame, but I'm not going to use a soap. That burns my face. Oh, I'm just going to drain this sink. Here we are. We have the vintage Old Spice. Now I'm just going to rinse this sink out because what I'm noticing is that on top of the water there's an awful lot of residue from this soap. More than usual. Let's put a flannel under there and just dampen down that noise a little bit. Oh. So I'm going to use this brush now. It is my body brush with the Sinbad knot will get that damp. And I'm just going to dry my hand again. What I want to do is to tip the soap out of the mug and take the lather off the back end so that I'm not eating away at the stamp in the soap. It's a strange thing, I'm just not quite ready to do that yet. So we'll get that going on here. Now what a shame about that soap. It is an inexpensive soap, or rather a cream. Now I'll just put that down there, out of the way. And we can lather up with the vintage Old Spice. But let me just tell you, while I've got this here, that it smells a little bit soapy, very fresh. There is a slight hint of some spiciness, but it really is nothing like the vintage Old Spice. In fact, there's something about this that puts me in mind of other modern products. It's a slightly generic scent. In fact, I've got my Ingram up here, and while the scents are very different, sitting behind the menthol fresh smell of the Ingram, when I did the Ingram video, I said it might be a sort of sandalwood type smell. Now I don't know if it is, but it smells a little bit similar to this, and it puts me in mind of maybe something I used to get out of a can, maybe about 10 years ago. So, now that's from memory. Take that with a pinch of salt. But it is definitely nothing like the original. However, if you can tolerate it, I'm sure that is a very nice, fresh shave. And in fact, Prentice uses the Old Spice lather cream. And he was telling me that the only way he can get near the vintage smell is to use this cream with an aftershave by Menon called After. Now I've not heard of that aftershave, and I looked it up, and I can buy it on Amazon. And it's about £2.60, and I think it was £1.60 delivery, so it's a really inexpensive product. Apparently it looks like pea soup, but it smells a little bit like Old Spice aftershave. So that sounds very interesting indeed. And I think, if we're honest, talking about the Old Spice soap, if you used the soap every day during the 70s or whatever, you would definitely know the scent of that soap. But I think the iconic scent of Old Spice is more to do with the aftershave than the scent of the soap. I mean, the aftershave is just fantastic, and it's long lasting. So I think the scent of the soap is just really nice addition. All part of the same family, and I'm sure if you used some Old Spice aftershave with that cream, the scent would be very nice indeed. So there we go. Now, second pass. This is a very nice shave. Do you know, I've always liked these single edge razors. I think they're fantastic. And the modern Persona Gem blades still fit them, and I had a little look on eBay before coming to the shave, and there are plenty of these available. I think they must have produced them in massive numbers back in the day. Now I've risked it today a little bit. Let me just show you this blade. Now this was a fresh blade, straight out of the packet, a new packet. You can see it's slightly discoloured at that end. Now the only time I use the sink in here is to wash my hands if I've been to the toilet, or wash my face on a night time, or to shave. I'm the only person that uses the den. So I wouldn't have thought it was very wet or moist in here, but that is obviously a carbon steel blade. I saw that when I was opening a packet, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to risk it. And it's a nice shave. It's just at one end I can feel that it's slightly rough. Obviously the edge at that end has degraded a little bit. So it's not something I'd recommend, obviously, but in this case I just thought, do you know what, I'm going to try it. Now there we go. This is a lovely smooth feeling soap, this vintage. There is lots of cushion on this that I didn't feel with the Indian Old Spice soap. Let's go against the grain now. Now against the grain you can see I've practically got it flat on my skin, but actually on the instructions that's how it says to use this, with the head flat on the skin. Now I must admit, with all my other single edge blades, I normally put the head flat on my skin and then just lift it away very slightly. But I looked online for some old instructions, for an old advertisement actually, and it said put the head flat on the skin. But I guess it's like everything, you've got to try it yourself and see how it suits you. Oh, we're nearly there. Now I can definitely feel that I've had a close shave. Oh, I just missed a bit there under my chin. Whether that is to do with a slight degradation on the blade or the razor itself, I'm uncertain. I've never used this razor before. I had it a long time ago. I'm afraid I don't remember who sent it to me, so if you're watching this and you sent me this razor, my apologies. Quite simply, I'd forgotten about it, and I pulled it out today and polished it up. It is gold plated, and there was a little bit of trying to think of the word. Oh, what you call it, Mark? There was a little bit of finish on top of the gold plating. So I polished it up very carefully. I had a plastic polish. I'm afraid I don't know the name of it. It was just, it came in like a test tube, like a syringe. It came in a syringe, and it's quite an aggressive, even for a plastic polish. But on metal, it turned out to be just the job, and it came up beautifully. But didn't cut the metal down to the brass, because this is a brass construction razor. And then I finished it with a little bit of reconnaissance microcrystalline polish, which is made for the British Museum. And if you have anything that oxidizes and needs protecting, that is a great polish. It provides a hard crystalline surface immediately. It makes the metal resistant to fingerprint marks, it's resistant to heat and water, and it just stops the metal oxidizing. So if you've got brass or aluminium. It works really well on those. And will just help keep them looking very nice. And also, in the British Museum, they use it on all sorts. They use it on paintings and all sorts. It's entirely removable with a little bit of white spirit. So that's the polish I use just to finish off this quite lovely looking razor from, as I say, very early 1930s. I'm going to finish off with a little bit of Old Spice. And what I'm going to do, because I'm trying to save my original Old Spice aftershave, I'm going to use a tiny drop of Nivea Men Sensitive, which doesn't, that's what that smells of. Very, very similar. How strange. Now imagine if you'd mixed a little bit of spice in with that. We're on our way to, that's a strange thing, isn't it? It's that generic smell. I don't know what it is, I'll have to look into that further. But I'm going to use a tiny drop. Oh, I'll tell you what, there's no such thing as a tiny drop of vintage Old Spice. It pours out of there. Right. Oh, that didn't work according to plan at all, did it, this week's shave? Now, I tell you what, my skin feels incredibly smooth. I've got some burn from the alcohol in the aftershave. I've had a very, very nice shave indeed. So there we are. That's my shave for today. I smell fantastic. I hope you do too with whatever you are using in your daily shave today. All the very best. I'd love you to subscribe, and I'm going to make a video just in a little while. I've got a terrific unboxing coming up, so look out for that one. All the best now. Take care.